to a question from His Honour about whether it is position or practice of the Jehovah's Witnesses to stone adulterous women to death. You said that you can't, and obviously you can't, but am I to understand that that's because the law says that that would be a very serious crime?
No. Jesus, because we come under the law of Christ, and under what Jesus said, he even goes further as to what now is regarded as a sin. He said that even if someone, say for example, keeps on looking at a woman so as to commit adultery in his heart, that would be wrong. So we are not under the Mosaic law with all its penalties for death and stoning. We are not under that law at all. We're under the law of Christ. And it's then in that way of applying those principles of Christ that we do apply that in the congregation.
Mr. Stewart, we made a grievous error. We didn't have any transcription. Do we now?
Yes, we do now, but not the question.
No.
Not sure that it matters terribly much on that one. We should take that up with the branch committee.
Well, it's a matter for you, Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, that's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DeRoy, I'm not going to ask you to give that explanation again. We'll ask people from the branch office about that relationship that I asked you about.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Getting back to the question of reinstatement, I'd like you to take a look at page 130, that's ringtail 0060 of tab 80. And you'll understand that this is from the Pay Attention to Yourselves and to All the Flock guide to elders that applied from 1991 until 2010. You see there it says, if it is determined that the wrongdoer is sincerely repentant, has discontinued his former wrong conduct, and is doing works that befit repentance, he can be reinstated. The decision to reinstate is made by a judicial committee of the congregation that took the disfellowshipping action, and the secretary should sign the form and so on. So are we to understand that the central consideration in reinstatement is the question of repentance?
Yes.
And in that period, at any rate, in 1991 to 2010, these are the principles that would apply in any reinstatement request.
Yes.
Now, in this particular case, as we'll see in a minute, because I'll take you to the documents, there were a number of reinstatement requests from BCH via other congregations with whom he had, or whose meetings he was attending. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes. And was it the case that the decision, though, on whether or not to reinstate still lay with the original congregation who had disfellowshipped him?
It comes back to the original.
So in other words, it lay with Mariba through all those.
That's right.
Yes. Okay. If we can take a look at tab 7. While that's coming up, can I just ask you, Mr. DeRoy, have you had the opportunity in the last week or two or three to go through these documents, the letters backwards and forwards about BCH's requests for reinstatement?
It's only in the last 24 hours, I suppose, yesterday, that I'm aware of some of these things.
All right. So in that period, you've had the opportunity to look at these letters backwards and forwards about reinstatement?
Only some questions and some things of that, yes.
All right. So you haven't actually read each of the letters?
Not every, no.
All right. I was hoping you might have, because then it might have been a quicker process of taking you to them. Is there a particular reason why you didn't look at them in detail?
I suppose time.
You didn't have enough time?
I can't answer that, no.
All right, you'll see at tab 7 in front of you, the Beanley East congregation asked the Mariba congregation for reinstatement in March of 1990, the reinstatement of BCH. Do you see that?
Yes.
And Beanley East is, that's somewhere southeast Brisbane, is it?
I believe so.
Yes. And do you recall having received this letter?
Not until I see it. I haven't. I don't recall the letter, but I do now that it's in front of me.
Yes. So
It is the letter.
right. And then you replied on the following page at tab 8. You see that in April 1990. So, firstly, what we see here is Beanley East has requested reinstatement less than a year after the disfellowshipping. You'll recall your original disfellowshipping decision was 12 July 1989. And already in March of 1990, Beanley East is asking for reinstatement. Now, just looking at the matter now and fresh, that would be an extraordinarily short period of time, wouldn't it, to reinstate someone after child sexual abuse allegations?
Yes.
And the current practice, I understand, or direction from the service desk is to wait a considerable period of time before a reinstatement decision would be seriously considered.
Yes.
Yes. All right, and you replied here, and you said that he shouldn't be reinstated. Is that right?
That's what I can't read the rest of the letter. It's not here, but that would be true.
Yes. Well, you'll see the first page really sets out the background to the Judicial Committee decision for disfellowshipping for loose conduct and lying. Do you see that? We'll scroll it down for you as you need it. You can scroll a little quicker. And then you'll see at the bottom, it's recorded that BCH appealed the decision. Do you see that?
I'm just trying to match up exactly where. Yes. You see that?
Yes, and then if we go to the top of the next page, you'll see you then set out the appeal decision relating to the additional charges of, as it's put there, sexually molesting his two eldest daughters, the most recent occasion being in September 1988. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right. And then beneath that, you then really set out your reasons for why he should not be reinstated. Is that right?
That's right.
And essentially, you were concerned with the continuing relationship between him and the other woman. Is that right?
That's true.
And it even records, you'll see, so just after where it says malicious slander, you see it says it should be noted that BCI, when told of the findings and her scriptural grounds for divorce due to porneia, did not wish to do so. So BCI's was BCH's wife, but desired BCH to return to consolidate their marriage and assume his responsibilities. He has not done so. Do you see that? So the wife whose home he'd left wanted him back. Is that right?
Yes, according to that, yes.
And that's essentially what you as the elders supported, that you regarded that to be his duty and he should do that. Is that right?
Well, that was a decision now that he would have had to make one way or the other. That was up to him.
Well,
What he was going to
ultimately,
do
yes,
there.
but that was the attitude you took, as I understand it. But correct me if I'm wrong. That would have been the right thing for him to do, to go back to the home.
Because his wife, according to that, was still wanting him to come back to the marriage.
Yes.
Yes, if he had.
And that would have put him back at the home, in the home with his two youngest daughters,
It would have.
which would not have been a safe situation, would it? That would not have been a safe situation, would it? In view of what you knew about him and his elder daughters.
That sounds correct.
You see, there's no mention here in your reasons for advising against reinstatement. There's no mention here of the child sexual abuse. Do you see that?
I cannot see it written there.
Because it suggests that you didn't take that seriously. You were more concerned about whether he was pursuing this relationship with another woman.
I would say that that's not correct. From my memory, we were taking it very seriously. But I can't answer any more than that, because I haven't gone to memory to be able to say it.
Yes, and you'll see at tab 10, you then received a further letter approximately a year later. It's clearly wrongly dated, which I'll show you in a moment. You see it says March 19, 1990. Take it from me for the moment, and I'll show you why in a minute, why that must be 1991. You then received this further letter from Beanie East, as I understand it, did you?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't, but this is definitely a letter to us.
Yes, and it encloses a letter from BCH being his plea for reinstatement. You see it starts off by saying enclosed. Can we scroll it down, please? Enclosed is a further request for reinstatement by BCH. As you can see by the date of the request, we have held on to it for a couple of months. And the request is the following page. We can just see that. You'll see it's dated 2 September 1990. And as the original disfellowshipping congregation, you then had to deal with this request as well, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes. And if we take a look at tab 11, do you recognize this to be your typing, Mr. Doran?
Yes, definitely my typing.
And this then sets out your reasons for not reinstating. You'll see it's in April, 6th of April 1991, and it's replying to an earlier letter and also a phone conversation with Brother Monty. That would be Brother Monty Baker, am I right?
I would say so, yes.
And we'll show you the last page of that letter. It's at ringtail 0023. And the foot of the page, you'll see that it's been signed by you and now a differently constituted committee. Mr. Zini, ally, is there, not Mr. Bardich. Do you recall why that is particularly?
Only that he would have moved from our congregation, if that was the case, or not serving as an elder.
Okay. And I take it that we can rely on what's set out in that letter as being your reasons for not or for advising against the reinstatement of BCH.
You might just repeat that because
I take it we can rely on what is set out in that letter as being the reasons for you declining the request for the reinstatement of BCH.
Yes.
And then if we can look at tab 13. You recall you then received a letter directly from BCH appealing to you. Do you recall this letter?
No.
Perhaps we can look down to the bottom. We'll see that it's from BCH, although it's been redacted.
Yes.
Okay, you don't recall receiving a letter directly from him?
No, it's too long ago, sorry.
Right, I understand that that letter was produced by the Queensland Police or prosecution, having themselves got it from the congregation at the time of the trial. Do you know about that?
Well, I was at the first first court case, so
And there were letters produced for the purpose of the court case, weren't there?
yes, I imagine so, yes.
And then if we can look at tab 19. You'll see in March of 1992, there was a further letter from Beenleigh East Congregation, which says, we as members of the committee who are hearing the appeal for reinstatement by BCH would like to give you an up-to-date picture as we see matters thus far. We find it necessary to do this due to the fact that BCH has now moved to the St. George Congregation, Queensland West. So do you recall that BCH then moved to St. George?
Yes.
Now, what's to happen then? So there's the original Mariba congregation responsible for the disfellowshipping. The Beenleigh East congregation have been looking into the reinstatement requests from time to time and asking for a reinstatement, and now BCH has gone to yet another congregation. What role do each of those congregations play in making a decision about reinstatement?
As the letters show there, though, in each congregation, they also would have a committee, and then they would be the ones that would actually talk to the person, but that would be conveyed then back to the original judicial committee. That was us here in Mariba. So when he moved then that would again happen in the next congregation, as it was in St. George then, and then that would go through a committee of the brothers in that congregation, but it ultimately would have to come back then to us.
So would it be the case that ultimately both bodies of elders would have to agree to the reinstatement, albeit that Mariba would have a right of veto, as it were?
Well, that's why we said no to various pleas of reinstatement there.
Yes.
Until
a bit later. Well, you'll see at tab 20, then a letter was then sent to the Mariba Congregation Judicial Committee from St. George. And do you recall getting this request from St. George in March 1992?
I don't, but obviously this is the letter.
Yes, and they say, starting in the second line, we are writing this letter with regard to the written plea for reinstatement that we have received from BCH. And then there are a couple of other paragraphs, and then they say, in talking to Brother Monty Baker from Beenleigh, he mentioned that they too felt that his conduct of late met with their approval, and they were contemplating a favourable recommendation to you. And then it goes on, listing a paragraph, as his recent letter to us indicated, that's BCH's letter, it is his earnest appeal and desire to return to Jehovah's organisation. We therefore unitedly request that you give this matter your earliest heartfelt and prayerful consideration. So then under the way the system worked, you then had to reconsider the matter. Is that right?
That's right.
Right, and you also received a letter, as I understand it, from the branch. Perhaps you can take a look at tab 21. 22. You see, this is a letter to the St. George congregation, but at the foot of the page, it says that it's copied to you.
Yes.
The Mariba congregation. Do you remember receiving this? Advice from the branch?
I don't remember it, but we would have received that.
Yeah. All right, perhaps we can go back to the top of the page. You see that at the top of the page it says SD:SSA.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.